mission is to build a future where no one needs to come out anymore. Together, we can create a world where everyone has the right to love, to succeed, to have a family, and to live a full, happy life.
Welcome back, everyone. Our guest today is Cecily. Welcome and thank you for accepting my invitation. And let's start with telling us a little bit about you and where you're from.
Well, my name is Cecily. I grew up in the States, in California. I just recently moved to Australia. My husband's family lives here, and we're kind of venturing into the next phase of our life. I have a 13-year-old daughter, and she just started high school here in Sydney. And it just dawned on me after talking with you for the first time that she is the age that I was when I went through a lot of family changes and shifts, and where a majority of my healing journey began. So it was kind of led me to reflect a lot, on the differences of how we parent.
Yes.
And just a lot's coming up. So I was excited to share my experience and through that discover a little bit more of those reflections.
Yes. There is power in sharing. There is healing in sharing, and there is inspiring, because I truly believe there is people out there that hearing your story will inspire them to share theirs, and so they could heal and they could discover their own reflections.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what would be the first thing that you remember from back then?
Well, I just had already been through, my mother's first divorce with my father. She remarried. So she was in the second marriage with my stepfather, and kind of starting to go through again, the patternist ways that we do things in relationships. I was observing similar things, even at the age of 12, and I'm very observant of the patterns that go on. So I just became very watchful of my mother in the ways that she would excuse herself and introduce new friends, and just little changes in her social ways and little changes in the ways that she would communicate with us. And it wasn't so much as the types of things she was saying or doing, but that I kept finding her in lies. And I'd catch little things. She'd say, "Oh, but you said you were going to work late this afternoon," and then she'd come home and have all these new books, and like, "Oh yeah, I was at the library." Like, well, that doesn't match up. So I just was kind of playing this little game. My sister and I actually have a younger sister, started just, sharing with each other what we found out about mom.
Wow.
It just kind of escalated and got a little bit more sneaky and a little bit more sneaky. Things weren't making sense, and we started just getting resentful. And eventually we were making connections, with her new set of friends, and her closest friend, who was a family friend who had just divorced and claimed, to everybody that she was gay and remarrying a woman. That was my mother's closest friend.
Okay.
And so that was her first way of introducing the concept to us. Like, "Oh, by the way, this is what's going on with our family friends." And then it kind of just clicked. It clicked. It just made sense, to us that possibly she was experimenting in the same way. And then lying about it, denying it.
How you and your sister deal with this suspicions? How did you make a decision that might be what's happening with your mom?
My mother was denying her part in the whole story. We had a feeling it was because of our religious upbringing and her past, a troubled past. We knew about her past and her upbringing, and we grew up very religious. So, you have to kind of hide things. We understood why she was doing it, but then it just got to a point where, hi, this is your family, this is your daughter here, just when we straight up would ask her things, and she would be like, no, what are you talking about?
So did you actually ask her if she's gay?
Yes, it came to that.
Oh, wow. So brave for a 13 years old.
I mean, that was probably a year and a half after it was so very obvious. But I just we didn't understand why she was trying to continue the facade. I mean, it was just, I don't know what compelled her. I mean, other than just feeling the shame and the guilt of the religious beliefs. And, she was a very open-minded, very open-hearted woman, but still contained within the confines of the beliefs of the religion. And so, eventually it came to a point where it came out. I mean, she couldn't bear it anymore with my stepfather. So they separated.
And how old were you?
I was about 14.
So how a 14 years old experienced her mom coming out as gay?
I mean, when you're in the situation, it just is what it is, and it's your family. I didn't really see it as anything foreign so much. It was just kind of a slow, gradual introduction of finding things, finding notes from her friends, finding books. So we found a book in her closet, Lesbian Mothers and How to Cope. And so,
wow.
She would say, oh, yeah, that's my friend's book. She gave me the wrong book or something, But it was a slow introduction to the concept. So it wasn't, like a drastic, shocking thing. It was kind of just what evolved in our family over a year's time. And so it didn't even dawn on me that it was so, oh my gosh, like out of the ordinary or weird. I just was more so disturbed by the lying and the shamefulness that was being exemplified to me. I didn't understand why an open-minded, open-hearted person so strong and beautiful as my mother would have any reason to hide or feel ashamed or lie. I mean, to her children, if, old enough to understand.
Right.
I did have younger siblings as well. There were 5 of us. I was the oldest.
Well, obviously, that's a normal thought when you're that age and looking up to your parent. But in the same time, now looking back, you could see the evidence of her looking to learn to be that person and how to become that person better.
She was pioneering this new way of life for herself. And in the beginning, I was more judgmental. Not so much because she was turning and dating women, but just that she wasn't being open and honest. And I left after a couple years of that and went to live with my father, finished high school with him, and then went off to college. And my mother and I's relationship fell apart. And I didn't speak with her for a couple years because I couldn't handle the lying. I just was, over. She wasn't really present anymore. She was really off exploring her new lifestyle. And, of course, there was judgment in the beginning, resentment. But, now that I've come through a lot of healing with her, just around those, the lies and the abandonment issues and whatever, comes through with that, I then go back and oh, yeah, actually that the aspect of her being with women didn't even dawn on me as a problem. It just was what it was. At that age even,
Yes.
I was a little embarrassed is all. Not really judgmental of that aspect of it, but just a little embarrassed to tell my friends. And, I was friends with the girls from my church, and she was excommunicated from the church. So, that was kind of a family embarrassment. But when that happened, I had already moved out to live with my father. So was in a different community of people and didn't really have to face it.
Wow. And that's it. Because it's not only about that person that it's coming out and you're not being inclusive and accepting. It's making an impact on a whole family.
Right.
And the reason doesn't matter.
Right.
It's irrelevant. You're not accepting that person for whatever reasons. You're impacting the whole family and that family's relationship with their friends and families.
Right. And just the fact that, for one, that she was the mother figure of the family. But for two, that, being any family member going through that, just, to feel that they couldn't trust and, feel open within the family dynamics to share or to allow that support to come through and to be reciprocated. I felt that I wasn't allowed to even help or talk with her about this stuff. And I was becoming a woman of my own, trying to understand my own connection with sexuality. And, so I was very confused. I absolutely grew up confused, not so much whether I should or shouldn't be, open to men or women, but should I be truthful about it? Do I have to lie? Do I have to be ashamed if I did choose one or the other? And I did go through a period, of exploring, and kind of as I got older and was a mother myself, even, observing through the early ages of when marriages kind of shift into those challenging phases, and, you need time and you need space and so we went through all that, my husband and I did start kind of getting those same patterns showing up within my relationship that I saw in my mother's. And so I was very aware and concerned about that. And, my whole purpose in life, it just seems like, is to break those patterns and to smooth out the challenges of those habitual ways that we're all being in default mode with our partners, with our families. And I didn't want to continue that legacy of being shameful and lying and, bouncing all over the place. So I really put my heart out in front and, have followed it as far as, choices that I'm making and people that I'm dating and whatever. It is what it is. It's not, there's no rules. I don't fit in any categories. I just know that it's important to be open and honest with yourself and those around you. Is basically what I've learned.
Right. And you did break the pattern because you are a different parent than your mom was. And I'm curious, back then, when you and your mom did not talk for a couple of years, what changed for you or for her to resume that communication? What was different?
Just getting really honest with myself and speaking the truth to myself about what it was I wanted and was lit up by, I mean, not only in the mind aspect of what I wanted or even in the heart aspect of what I wanted, what inspired me, what turned me on, what, just kind of paying attention to all those different levels of me, of being, and watching as the levels of shame and guilt and fear come in as I'm sitting with each of those parts of me. And just really through my healing journey of learning that those things are not anything but thoughts. And so I just was always watching those thoughts arrive and then using them as arrows to point me in the direction to look deeper.
So how was that reconnection with your mom? How she received it?
Received it fine. She eventually was just honest with that part, trying to excuse herself for why she said certain things here and there, but mostly just being like, oh, well, sorry, and she was, when I was ready to have a relationship with her and do some, deep conversating, healing work with her, she was open to it for me in the aspect of that I needed some healing with this, but she was never really willing to go into her own. And I feel like there was a part of me that needed her to go there for me. Well, for her too, I really wanted her to go there, but she wouldn't. She couldn't, and she just simply said it one day, and I got it. I'm like, okay, I respect that. And thank you for at least showing up for me to do my part.
That's so beautiful and so inspiring.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you sharing, and I respect your vulnerability. I know it's not easy, and I cannot even imagine how hard it was.
Yeah, it's hard. You want everyone to, especially your close family, your mother of all people, to be able to go through their own shadows and, things and heal the shames and the guilt. But it's just each person's on their own journey. I understood at that point that maybe in her own time, that I could maybe just be an example that it wasn't so scary. So I just did my thing, and the peace that I made around with her and with my husband and with my child, being a mother.
Right. The impact on your own family, especially being yourself a mother.
I was scared shitless to be a mother. I was, I dreaded it, forever. And then the surprise pregnancy, I was just like, oh my God, gosh, but thank goodness, because it just really helped me to go into that fear, and open into those deeper layers of love that you just can't fathom without.
So beautiful. As children, we could go with open heart and heal our parents. And we as parents, we could open our hearts for having our children to come to heal us.
Right. I think I learned from my daughter. Yeah, because just seeing how her presence in my life, I always felt that she was my angel, that she was sent here to help me in my healing journey. And in that way, I was able to reflect that I could too then be a shining light for my mother. And she has grown incredibly, through the years, and just watching the type of mother I am. And she's always commenting on it. And, I know it's in there. I know that she ended up marrying a woman, her wife now, who they've been together all these years now, as long as my husband and I have been together. So, 14 years now. And, you can see the patterns have shifted now in her new relationship. Obviously, she's honoring a different part of herself in this relationship. But yeah, those, inevitable, those patterns show up. And so I can see the shifts, and it's just absolutely, it makes me very happy.
Can you tell how she is finally being who she's supposed to be?
More and more. Yeah. I guess she's always had a thing for feeling that she needed to lie about this or that for some reason. Lying has always been a part of her path in the past. And so it's not just with, her marrying a woman, but a lot of different things. And you can really just see how one big truth like that, stepping into that truth for her, has helped her in all the other little ways that she felt she needed to lie. And so it's easier for her now to just say it and be in her power. And
honesty and authenticity.
And I really appreciate that, for myself and for my daughter now, who's 13 years old. And, she's grown up with her grandmothers. It's just a normal thing, and my father, like we have our big family photo, and there's me and my 5 siblings behind the couch, and my 2 mothers and my father sitting on the couch in front of us, and the 2 grandchildren in between. And it's just a lovely family dynamic. It's really just, even though we're in the very strict confines of a religion that does not accept those conditions, within the family, it wasn't a doubt or a question of like, are we family now? It was just very much, well, this is what our new family looks like.
Yes.
If that lying and that shame and that embarrassment and that all that stuff wasn't there, it could have happened years earlier, and it took a decade for us to get to the point where we could all comfortably sit on the sofa together and have a family photo and genuinely love each other and support each other. We had to get all that other stuff out of the way. Yeah. And I'm just hoping, my younger siblings are, I'm sure, doing their own healing work and in their own way, because they were different ages, and different ages or different phases of being in family dynamics. So it's interesting to see the differences in how we all experienced it.
Right. And the impact. But what I'm getting from here, and was so beautiful, is that how one denying who she really is is just like it's spreading like a disease and lying in so many different areas, and it's blocking that genuine love from the family. And once she's clear and honest, is like, oh, I have my family support, and I could have had this 10 years ago.
Right.
The power of being honest with ourselves first.
Right, absolutely.
It's so beautiful. Our mission here is to create a world where nobody needs to come out anymore and just get to be.
Right, just get to be who you are.
Yes, and as I go, and with all this amazing guests that we have to have on this podcast, is I keep hearing kind of the same pattern, like coming out, it's actually so powerful, and it's honest, and it's own it, and it's inspiring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, this whole coming out, it basically is just speaking truth,
Speaking truth.
All it is, and it can be in sexuality, it can be in any other system of life, like it's just
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious, wasn't there any conversation with your daughter regarding how come that she has two grandmas?
I have to say no. It was
I love
just a
that.
normal thing. Well, we have a couple friends as well who have different, dynamics within their families that really just she grew up with and saw right away. I mean, she has her very dearest, close best friend that she grew up with, her little girlfriend, who is very tomboy and, only will wear boys' clothes and have a boy's haircut and even has the musculature and the aptitude of, a little boy. And so, like, why do they even friends? Because my girl was the little princess frilly girl, and I don't even know how they were such good friends, but they were. And it was just, they accepted each other in their own way. And, and so it's just been being in community with people that are just, oh yeah, that's just that's just my daughter, or that's just my son, or that's just my mother. It's not really a thing. It's just only when the lying and the cheating and the guilt sneaking around come in that it's a problem. And so by the time my daughter was born and old enough to recognize things, none of that was there. It was all just very open, and I think she just worked it out.
Right. Right. Well, I want to believe that it's the power of parenting as well, because when you raise her that everyone is lovable and we could love everyone
Absolutely.
and anyone, and we are not so focusing on differences that separate us, and we don't need to connect with the specific sexuality or gender or whatever. You just connect in your heart. So it doesn't matter if it's a boy or a girl, or she's acting like a boy or he's acting like a girl. It's like we are connecting in our hearts.
Right.
And
absolutely.
It's so much to learn from there. Us as adults, like at least our generation or even the older generation, because in my heart, I want to believe that the new generation, they'll be way more open-minded than we are.
Well, the more we heal our shames and our guilt and our, not speaking of truths, then, the more we heal that, the more they will. It'll just be the normal thing. And, what you're doing and the movement that's happening right now with this is just, that much closer to us being in that world.
Yes, we are. Thank you so much for your sharing. I found it extremely powerful and very, very inspiring.
I am inspired by it every day, and where I'm seeing it every day. People are really standing up for their people and themselves, especially. Just incredible.
Yes. And my intention is to bring in this movement, as you call it, as many people that are outside of rainbow community as possible, because I said it before and I will say it again, is outside the rainbow community is where the problem is. There where the judgments are, there where the homophobia is.
Right.
One of my guests asked me, like, why you do this, you don't even gay. I'm like, that's why.
Right.
Because
right, thank you.
yeah, because straight people are looking at you like it's something wrong with you, and it's
like
not.
It's people or something, like it's a different religion or something, like it's just humanity. And it's not a lot of people know still what rainbow community even means. My daughter would just be like, the happy community. Rainbow lovers. It doesn't have to be just about sexuality even, it's just freedom to be in the world as you are.
Yes, I love it. So I want to ask you, given your experience, do you have any advice or suggestions for, let's say, young generation that might be in a similar situation that you were?
Well, at first, the first thing that popped in my head was to be brave, but I then was immediately reminded of myself growing up, and people were telling me this a lot. Oh my gosh, you're so brave, and I just would look at it and I'd hear that and I'd be like, but I'm not. It's not about being brave. It's just about being true. It's just
being honest.
It's not bravery. It's not like I'm facing demons. It's just, I just do what I know I need to do, following your heart, and judgment, just letting the judgment go, and just really, please don't fall for any of the the old default ways of being in societies and religions and different ideas that we pick up, through the eons, different beliefs. Like, you got to get to a point where you just realize you can step back from all of that and just take a deep breath and let things shift and evolve as we go. Because if you're not able to relax enough to shift and evolve as things go, you're stuck. You're stuck and you get snagged into things and you're stuck. You can't really have that free-flowing possibility of the next, heart-based life or world. It's just, you got to step back and just take a deep breath. Let go.
That's so beautifully said. I take that. That's an amazing, powerful advice for whatever it's happening.
Right. Because it's about all things. It's not just about this.
Yes.
It's just about a way of being in the world that I really feel like is, the 100th monkey effect. People are catching on. And our younger generation is just going to be the force to bring this movement into a powerful way of being. I don't have any doubt in my mind.
Yes, same here. And speaking about the new generation, do you have anything to say to the parents out there?
Well, the song from Whitney Houston popped up.
Okay, which one?
I believe the children are our future. Just trusting in the children. Let them lead the way. Just let them. It's their time now, and we're the ones that are there to hold them up and support them through it. And it can be the most beautiful thing if we ourselves can just continue to step back, take a deep breath, and let go.
Amen to that. And I don't want to sound religious or anything, but that's just like that. That's it. That is it. Our kids are our future.
Right.
We do have the power and the responsibility of what kind of print we live on them and what kind of future we are raising.
Right. It's just going to make it that much more easy or more difficult for them to go with the times. It's just how much we're going to hold them back or try and sculpt them into a world that's inevitably changing and evolving all the time. The only consistent thing in this world is change.
Yes, very beautifully said again. Well, I just want to thank you for your sharing, for being honest, not for being brave, but for being honest, and for your vulnerability, because it is sharing a piece of your heart, and I really, really appreciate, and I also know that will connect with those they needed to hear your message. So thank you so much.
Thank you for bringing that through for me as well, to remember those very important pieces in the evolution of our legacy as a family.
Yes, my pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Redefined Family, a Spark Transformation podcast. Feel free to share your story, knowing that your story could change someone's life. We invite you to spread the love by sharing our message with others. And leave your comments at spark@redefinedfamily.com. Until next time, remember that you are the spark in your life. Just shine bright.